Hey everybody, welcome to Earth and Time, a channel where we explore Earth as well as human history. And today we're going to check out some Earth history right around the Cincinnati, Ohio area. They actually have a fascinating park there that's open to the public. It's taken care of by the city. It's called Trammel Park, and you can actually go collect fossils from hundreds of millions of years ago. So come join me today. Let's learn about the geology around this part of Cincinnati, Ohio. Let's get to it. Before we get started here, one of the things to remember about geology is the Earth is made up of layers, and these layers generally, with a couple exceptions, go from oldest at the bottom to youngest on top. And that's what they're trying to talk about here. This poster is we actually go from the oldest, which is the Fairview Formation. We'll go to the Miamitown Formation, the Bellevue Formation, and the Corryville Formation. Each of these formations actually have similar and different fossils associated with them, so we can learn about what was happening with life at that time by looking at these different fossil assemblages. Now, to understand this as well as you need to understand the idea of the geologic timeline. So we're going to be talking about a very, very old period of time, the time before the dinosaurs, a time here known as the Ordovician, or about 490 million years ago, when tropical seas covered much of the United States. And it looks something like this. So we're actually, the location of Ohio during the Ordovician is here, and all the blue here is ocean. So there wasn't a lot of landmass at that time here, but the ocean was here, and that's why we have these alternating layers of shale, or if you can think of like mudstone, and then limestone. So limestone is really what you think about when you think about coral reefs or the Bahamas. That's the simplest way to think about it. And we see that alteration going on here from the shales to the limestones. If we don't find any fossils in the actual rocks, they actually have pictures of what kind of fossils you can find, like bryozoans, brachiopods, crinoids, these are sea lilies, I love them, and trilobites. So these are little ocean pill bugs is what we call them, or roly-polies. And these are the types of fossils you find in the Corryville, remember? And then there's the Fairview Formation. Again, this looks very similar to the other formation we saw at the beginning of this conversation, is that we saw bryozoans, brachiopods, crinoids. Here they have more gastropods and not as many trilobites. That's actually what's right in front of us here in this lowest most area coming through. And we can see some of these slabs down here, and we can actually see some fossils in here. So there's a couple of fossils. You can see some fossils here, some other fossils in here as well. And here's a nice little brachiopod that you can see starting to break out. And then we can look at the Miamitown Formation, and here you have brachiopods again, obviously very abundant. You have gastropods, so these are types of snails, pelecypods, so these are like oysters, and ediorasterids, which are a type again of like crinoids, something like related to sea stars or sand dollars, so some kind of like echinoid style. Every step of the way, we can see how life's changed, going from the Fairview to Miamitown to the Bellevue Formation now, where we have bryozoans and brachiopods, which are pretty common throughout, and eventually we'll go one more layer up. Now, it's worth mentioning also, these formations cover about a 2 million year time period when the oceans were here. So it's no surprise that there's a change in life through that time as sea level change or environment change during those 2 million years. So let's just take a walk through and see if we see any fossils. So we'll actually start at the bottom of the section, or the oldest part of the section. It's nice that they have signs here. So this is the Fairview. And you remember they had gastropods and pelecypods, so those are oysters and brachiopods. In fact, see some brachiopods right here, some pieces of bryozoan, which kind of have this longer, they're more linear, if you will, and have a texture to it. And there's pieces of pelecypods in here broken up as well, or oyster shells. So these aren't easily collected. They're actually in what's known as limestone. So limestone, of course, is what we make cement out of. And in this case, there's lots of fossils in this, but it's very hard to bring a block like this home. There's brachiopods and bryozoans, lots of little brachiopods, actually, little baby ones as well, and lots of bryozoans. So you can think of these like early coral. On this one, right in the middle, I'll set this down, there's actually part of a gastropod. So you can see 1, 2, 3. So this was a snail shell that was in there in this formation. Pretty cool to see. Let's work our way up. We'll see if we see any other really cool fossils on the way to the next formation. And it looks like we're actually missing a formation sign. Oh, there we go. the lower Bellevue and my upper Miami town. So I think we're actually in the Miami town now. Unfortunately, it looks like the sign's gone, but they do have a marker up here showing the lower Bellevue Miami transition. So I must be well into the Miami at this point. And here's another beautiful sample with bryozoans, brachiopods in here. Pretty cool to see. The kind of the treasure to find out here is actually to find a trilobite. Find those up at the very top of the section. Now, that being said, gravity is our friend. And with gravity, sometimes those trilobite sections or the rocks those trilobites are in will roll down. So I'm always on the hunt. Okay, now we're well into Bellevue. So we went from Fairmont to Miami town to now we're in the Bellevue. And if you remember, the Bellevue had not a whole lot going on. It had some bryozoans and brachiopods were the key indicators there. And if I look down, find some nice samples like this. And what you see, the little branching looking thing right there, that's a bryozoan. And then you can see little pieces of shells in there that are parts of brachiopods. Continue up this slope. We call it a scree slope. This loose rock is often referred to as scree, and it's somewhere to be very careful when you're walking, going up. Make sure not to slip. Beautiful panel. This one must be from up above in the Coreyville. I can see brachiopods, I can see bryozoans. It looks like maybe there's even some plesiopods in there. That could be in there. Trying to look for any kinds of little pieces of trilobite. Nothing obvious in this one, but lots and lots of cool fossils. Nothing I want to try to pack home though. So how do we know if we're in a shale or a limestone? Well, what we call the slope formers. The gentle slope here is mostly shale. And then the hard rocks in here that you can see, the resistive pieces I've been picking up are the limestone. And they'll create cliffs like we see there in the background. So they're kind of the cliff formers or the more resistant sections. And that's how you tell the difference between the shales and the limestones. Now the limestones, you can see a lot of fossils in it. However, if you get fossils out of the shale, you may have a little better luck of finding more individual fossils like this bryozoan, which is pretty amazing. I'll probably keep that little one. Maybe, just maybe up here, digging in some of the shaly layers, like you can see somebody dug right here, you may find a trilobite or some other really nice fossil samples. Of course, having some of these blocks, especially small ones if you want to take home, are fantastic as well because there's a lot of biodiversity in a lot of these blocks where you have, again, the bryozoas, the brachiopods. You can find some gastropods down below. Like this little piece where you can see a bunch of fossil pieces in there. As I'm working my way down, it's neat seeing these spring flowers starting to pop up through all the limestone and shale here. Here's some nice plesiopods or oyster shells with some brachiopods in here. And these two, pretty cool to see. So as I'm heading down this hill, getting ready to go, I do want to say that, you know, this upper section of the Coreyville seems to be the better place to collect some of the bryozoans and some nicer, really fossil dense chunks of limestone. So if you come here, come up to the top, take a look at those, and then kind of work your way down. Maybe a good way to go. So if you get really good samples up here, you can look and see if there's anything worthwhile as you go down. All right, time to get back on the road. Didn't find any trilobites, but found a couple little samples to take home with us. Hey everybody, thanks for joining me today to check out Trammel Fossil Park in Cincinnati, Ohio, and learn about the amazing geology in this area. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel to keep up on all my adventures, and don't forget to hit that bell for notification. If you enjoyed this episode, you enjoy fossils, you enjoy geology, please give this video a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below about your favorite places to go fossil collecting or rock hounding. I appreciate learning about those. Take care, everybody. Look forward to joining you for another adventure to learn something new. See you on the next adventure.